What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Scoop, where we look beyond the headlines, break down what people are saying, and give you a perspective without pretending that every claim circulating online is automatically a fact. Today, we are talking about a conversation that has sparked serious debate in dancehall. Foota I made mention of Shawn Paul, Singer J, Shawn Storm, Popcorn, Vybz Kartel, Beanie Man, and several other figures connected to the Jamaican entertainment industry. But underneath all of the names and controversy is a much bigger question. What does loyalty really mean in the dancehall business? Is loyalty simple standing beside somebody publicly? Is loyalty helping somebody when they need opportunities? Is loyalty financial? Is loyalty about opening doors? Or does loyalty have a limit when one person feels that the relationship has become one sided? That is the real conversation. And before we get into it, remember much of what we are discussing comes from a statement and opinion expressed publicly. We are not presenting every allegation as an established fact. The purpose here is to examine the argument and the wider issue, so let's get into it. One of the biggest talking points from Foota Hype involves Singer J and claims about assistance given to Lisa and Shawn Storm. The argument being made essentially this: if Singer J was able to assist Lisa with an opportunity, why could not similar assistance have been extended to Shawn Storm? That is the question being thrown into the public conversation. And that is where things become complicated, because in the entertainment business, helping somebody is not always as simple as saying, I know this person, so I will make everything happen. There can be contracts, immigration rules, promoters, management decision, business relationship, and other factors involved. So we have to separate what somebody is claiming from what has actually been independently confirmed. But the broader question is still worth discussing. If you have somebody who has been working around you, supporting your career, helping with your business, and contributing to your success, what responsibility do you have towards that person? That is where the debate becomes interesting. The discussion surrounding Shawn Storm is not really just about one trip or one opportunity. It's about recognition. According to Foota Hype, there are people who work behind the scene for years while the artist becomes the face of the success. The audience see the artist, they hear the song, they see the performance, they see the expensive vehicle, international shows, and major collaboration, but they don't always see the people who helped build the road that got the artist there. And that happens in many industries, not only dancehall. In entertainment, you have selectors, DJs, road managers, producers, promoters, security personnel, assistants, videographer, photographer, publicists, and other team members. Some of those people may contribute for years without receiving the same recognition as the person standing on stage. That does not automatically mean every artist is exploiting somebody, but it does raise an important question. Are the people behind the success being properly valued? This is where Foota Hype comment becomes especially significant. His argument is not simply about one individual. He is making a broader statement about people who work with successful artists. The basic point is, if somebody contributes significantly to generating money, opportunities, or exposure, should they receive something meaningful in return? That could mean payment, it could mean business opportunities, it could mean introductions, it could mean assistance with their own career. Or sometimes it could simply mean respect or acknowledgement. The business principle is straightforward. Contribution should have value. If somebody is working every night, traveling, promoting music, bringing people to events, making connections, and helping create opportunities, eventually there has to be a conversation about compensation, because loyalty alone does not pay bills, and friendship alone does not necessarily create a sustainable career. Here is where I think the conversation gets particularly independent. There is a difference between being loyal to somebody and becoming completely dependent on somebody. Loyalty can be powerful, but if one person controls all the opportunities, all the money, and all the decisions, the relationship can become unhealthy from a business perspective. A person can spend years saying, I am loyal to this artist, but eventually that person needs to ask, what am I building for myself? That is not betrayal, that is growth. Look at the careers of major Jamaican entertainers over the years. People such as Shawn, Beanie Man, Vybz Kartel, Popcorn, and others did not become internationally recognized simply because they had talent. There were teams, there were producers, there were selectors, there were writers, there were people making connections, there were people creating opportunities. The entertainment business is an ecosystem. Nobody operates completely alone. Another major name mentioned in the conversation was Sean Paul. Foota mentioned that Sean Paul is one of the strongest examples of a Jamaican dancehall artist who successfully crossed into the international mainstream. His career demonstrates how independent networks and teams can be, from Jamaica to international markets, collaboration, and major performances. Sean Paul became a global name, but the point being raised in this discussion is not necessarily about Sean Paul's personal career. It is about the people surrounding the artist. The argument suggests that some individuals who work behind the scene can eventually build independent career of their own when they receive the right opportunity. That is why the example involving someone moving forward independently become important, because sometimes a person leaves an organization or team and suddenly discover that they are capable of doing much more on their own. That does not necessarily mean the original relationship was bad. It can simply mean the person finally found room to grow. Another powerful part of the discussion with Foota Hype involved popcorn and the idea of separating yourself from people when circumstances are no longer working. The message is essentially, sometimes you have to walk alone, and that's an important lesson not only for entertainers but for anybody trying to build something. There comes a point where you have to evaluate your environment. Are the people around you helping you? Are they respecting your contribution? Are they giving you opportunities? Are they supporting your goals? Or are you simply staying because you have been there for a long time? History does not automatically equal obligation, and sometimes leaving a familiar environment can be the beginning of a person's next chapter. Then we have Vybz Kartel, one of the most influential figures in modern dancehall. Whatever someone's personal opinion about Kartel may be, his influence on dancehall culture, language, branding, and the development of the artists around him is undeniable. The Gaza movement became more than simply an artist and a collection of songs. It became an identity and a community. Artists connected to that movement, including Popcorn, went to establish their own identities, and that creates another important question. When somebody grows beyond the environment that helped them, should they remain permanently attached to that environment, or should they eventually establish their own lane? There is not one universal answer. Sometimes separation is healthy, sometimes reconciliation is possible, sometimes people simply move in different directions. Foota Hype also speak extensively about his time connecting to the Alliance movement. Names associated with the wider alliance include Bounty Killer, Mavado, Busy Signal, and other entertainers who were connected to the musical ecosystem at different points. Foota Hype argument is that selectors and people working behind the scene contributed significant resources to building the movement. He described traveling around Jamaica promoting events, supporting performances and putting his own resource into the work. Whether every detail of those claims can be independently verified is a separate question, but the underlying business principle remain important. If you spend your own resource building somebody else's brand, there should eventually be a conversation about what you receive in return. That is just business. And this might actually be the most important part of the entire conversation. Think about an artist's career. You see the artist on stage, but who helped get the artist there? Who drove them? Who promoted the show? Who contacted the promoter? Who helped build the relationship with the selector? Who made the promotional material? Who stayed up late working when nobody was watching? These people are often invisible, and when everything succeeds, the artists get the applause. But when something goes wrong, the people behind the scene can sometimes become the first people to be blamed. That's why the entertainment industry needs stronger professional structure. People need contract, people need clear responsibilities, people need clear payment arrangements, and people need to understand whether they're employees, contractors, business partners, or simple friends helping out. Let's be honest, the word loyalty can sometimes be used incorrectly. Someone might say, after everything I have done for you, you should stay loyal. But loyalty should not mean accepting unfair treatment. At the same time, somebody should not automatically call another person disloyal simply because that person wants to develop independently. There needs to be balance. If an artist help you get started, appreciate that. If a team member help you build your career, appreciate that. But appreciation does not mean ownership. People are allowed to grow and artists are also allowed to make business decisions. That's why professional agreement matter, because when everything is based on friendship and verbal promises, misunderstanding can eventually become public dispute. Another example raised in the discussion involved in a young worker who reportedly wanted assistance starting a small restaurant. The broader lesson here is fascinating. Imagine someone has worked around an artist for years. That person eventually come with a business idea and asks for help getting started. Instead of simply giving them money, a possible alternative could be, let's build this together. The artist could provide some investment, the worker could operate the business, both parties could agree on ownership. Everybody wins. That's the difference between charity and empowerment. Instead of giving someone money once, you can sometimes help them to create something that produces income repeatedly. That's how people build generational opportunities. Foota I've also raised the idea of creating a documentary series found on the people around artists, and honestly, that concept could be fascinating. Not another documentary where the superstar tells you how successful they are. Instead, interview the people who were there: the former road manager, the old selector, the longtime driver, the producer, the security personnel, the assistant, the person who used to burn the CDs, the person who used to travel from town to town, the people who helped build the early audience. Those stories could reveal another side of Jamaican music history, because every successful artist has stories that the public never sees. We also have to remember how much the music business have changed. There was a time when artists there and their team were physically moving around Jamaica with CDs. Selectors played a massive role in determining which song became popular. If a selector repeatedly played a song in different communities, that song could gain momentum. Today, social media and streaming have changed the game. You have TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music. Digital distribution algorithm, the system is different, but one thing has not changed. Someone still has to create attention. An artist can release a song today, but if nobody notices it, the song can disappear almost immediately. That is why marketing, promotion, and networking remain important. This brings us back to selectors. In Jamaican music culture, selectors have historically been more than people simply pressing buttons. They can influence the energy of a dance, they can introduce new music, they can determine which record receive repeated exposure, they can connect artists with audience, and when a selector repeatedly supports an artist, that exposure can become part of the artist's growth. That does not mean selector deserve all the credit. Absolutely not. The artist still has to make quality music, but the ecosystem matters. You need a song, you need the audience, you need a promotion, you need a platform, you need a performance, you need a connection. All of these pieces work together. Here is my perspective. If someone helped you before you became successful, don't forget them. You don't have to remain business partners. You don't have to agree on everything. You don't even have to remain friends. But you should remember the contribution, because success can create a dangerous illusion. Once the money starts coming in, people can forget what life looked like before the money. The person you used to answer your phone at midnight might suddenly become visible. The person who used to promote your songs might suddenly be just a former associate. The person who drove you around might suddenly be treated like they never mattered. That's where ego can become dangerous. At the same time, the responsibility is not entirely on the artist. People working around artists need to think about their own future too. Don't spend 20 years building somebody else's empire without developing your own skills. Learn business, learn marketing, learn production, learn finance, build relationships, save money, start something, create your own brand. Because one day that artist might retire, one day the music might change, one day the relationship might end, one day the artist might move in another direction. And when that happens, you need something of your own. This is why the discussion involving Shawn Storm matters. Behind Shawn Storm himself, the bigger lesson is watch people actions, not just their words. Someone can tell you that you're family. Someone can call you brother. Someone can say you're important. But eventually, actions reveal how much value somebody places on the relationship. And that's applied in both directions. If someone helps you, acknowledge it. If someone is helping you, compensate them fairly. If someone has their own ambitions, don't just automatically label them ungrateful for wanting to grow. And if you're not being treated properly, have enough confidence to make a change. One thing Jamaican entertainment industry could probably benefit from is separate business from personal emotion. Not every disagreement needs to become a war. Not every departure means betrayal. Not every business decision means somebody is bad mind. And not every criticism is an attack. Sometimes people simply disagree. Sometimes contracts are not clear. Sometimes expectations were not communicated. Sometimes one person believes they contribute more than the other person. Recognize the solution should be communication, and when communication does not work, professional agreement should settle the issue. So, where does the Daily Scoop stand on all of this? Here is my take. First, we should not automatically accept every claim made during a heated public discussion as proven facts. Second, the larger issue being raised is legitimate. People behind successful artists deserve to be valued. Third, artists should remember the people who contributed during the difficult stage of their career. 4. Workers and entourage members also need to build independent skills and income stream rather than depending completely on one artist. And 5th, the entertainment industry needs more professionalism, clear agreements, clear payment, clear responsibilities, clear expectations, because when everything is based on trust, Me, where family problems can eventually develop. Dancehall has produced some of the most influential entertainers in the world, from Beanie Man to Bounty Killer, from Vybz Kartel to Popcorn, from Shawn to countless other Jamaican artists. But behind every major name is a network of people, some famous, some unknown, some who eventually became artists themselves, some who became producers, some who became promoters, and some who simply went back to regular life. Their stories matters too. So when you hear a controversy involving Singer J, Sean Storm, Sean Paul, Popcorn, Vybz Kartel, or anybody else, don't just focus on the personalities. Look at the principle underneath the argument. Who contributes? Was the relationship fair? Were the expectations clear? What can the next generation learn from it? The real victory is creating an entertainment industry where talented people can work together, get proper compensation, build business, protect their futures, and still maintain respect. This is the Daily Scoop. If you enjoy this breakdown, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments, do you believe artists should have a greater responsibility to support the people who help build their careers, or should every person working in the entertainment be responsible for creating their own opportunities? And remember, keep the conversation respectful. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, stay informed, and keep watching the Daily Scoop.